Всім добрий вечір.
On behalf of the brave.
On behalf of every father and every mother.
Wings for freedom. On behalf of our
Warriors. And paves the way for a new history.
Hello and welcome to Tochnyi Weekly, the show that gets behind the headlines to discuss the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We have an excellent broadcast for you today. I'll be presenting the news as I always do. That will be followed by the report from German aid to Ukraine. And then we have a great guest today. We're going to have Mr. Gesh talk a little bit about his research methods and how open source analysts track Russian units on different battlefields. First, of course, I need to, as I always do, request humbly that you please do hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. All that stuff really helps us. YouTube doesn't like when we explain to you what's going on in Ukraine. It's not advertiser friendly, at least. And it really helps us when you guys promote our work because it helps fight against that kind of automatic bias that YouTube has put in place against our content. So really appreciate that. Also, please do check out our Twitter account, our Blue Sky account. Those are the main two social media platforms we post on. We do post updates there occasionally. We also circulate people's research and stuff that way. And then I think probably the best way to keep tabs on all the projects and stuff we do, aside from, of course, like tuning into the stream every week, Sunday at 2100 Kyiv time, is to go to the website, which is Tochnyi.info. There's a lot of people who've been doing a lot of really hard work to keep the website up and running, just the logistics of it. And then also, of course, we have a lot of excellent research by a lot of excellent researchers there doing open source work. So definitely check out the website, Tochnyi.info. A lot of cool maps, a lot of cool information. And really respect all the work my colleagues do. So please do all that stuff I just said so that you can help promote their work because I think what they're doing is really awesome. And I think without any further delay, I will now jump right into the news.
These are the main headlines as of January 12th, 2025. Starting with operational news. Drones targeted the Tochnyi oil refinery in Tatarstan, Russia on Saturday. Reports of the incident emerged from Russian media outlet Astra, with additional confirmation provided by Andriy Kovalenko, leader of Ukraine's Center for Countering Disinformation, through a message on Telegram. Astra indicated that workers at the refinery, located in Nizhnekamsk, were evacuated following a perceived drone threat. Videos circulated on social media appeared to show smoke rising from the site, which is among the largest and most advanced oil refineries in Russia. Heightened security measures were also evident as an emergency protocol was initiated at Nizhnekamsk airport before the attack. Kovalenko stated that drones successfully struck the Tochnyi facility that handles over 16 million tons of oil processing for Russia annually. On the night of January 10th, Ukrainian drones carried out attacks on multiple regions in Russia, leading to significant fires in the Leningrad and Rostov oblasts, as reported by local officials and independent Russian media outlets. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed that its air defense systems intercepted 40 Ukrainian drones during the night. In Leningrad Oblast, a major fire erupted in the town of Gatchina, located 45 kilometers southwest of St. Petersburg. The blaze was reported to have started in an industrial area and was reported on by Astra, which cited eyewitness accounts. The site of the fire included various facilities, such as a company specializing in panel coatings and paints, a food processing plant, and a building materials factory. State media TASS added that an acetone plant was also involved. The fire spanned approximately 1,900 square meters, but the Russian Emergency Situations Ministry stated that no injuries had been reported. Rostov Oblast also experienced a large fire attributed to a drone strike. Near Rostov City, flames engulfed an industrial production facility covering 2,000 square meters, according to the state-controlled media RIA Novosti. Astra also reported that one attack hit near a hospital in the village of Chaltir, where the regional governor Vasily Golubev confirmed that a fire had damaged a residential building. A second group of Ukrainians has started training in Poland as part of the Ukrainian Legion, with women participating in the unit for the first time, as announced by Ukraine's Ministry of Defense. The majority of new volunteers in the Ukrainian Legion are Ukrainians currently living in Poland, but the unit also includes citizens from other European countries such as Denmark, Czechia, Germany, and Lithuania. Women have also joined the group, taking on roles in both medicine and communications. According to the Defense Ministry, approximately 1,300 applications for the service has been submitted to the Legion's recruitment center. Lieutenant Colonel Petro Horkusha, the unit's deputy commander, noted that more recruits have enlisted compared to November, indicating increased trust in the initiative. He emphasized that those joining are motivated individuals who understand the significance of their decision. After signing contracts, the volunteers traveled to a Polish Armed Forces training center to begin basic military training. The program, conducted by Polish instructors, incorporates modern NATO weaponry and training techniques. On January 4th, Ukraine's State Registry of Civil Status Acts resumed operations, enabling officials to once again register key events such as births, marriages, and other civil records in the unified database. The Ministry of Justice announced the restoration following a significant cyber attack I reported on 2 weeks ago, attributed to Russia, that disrupted several state registries. The ministry confirmed that offices handling civil status registrations have regained the ability to input data on events, including births, marriages, divorces, name changes, and deaths into their database. Paper documents collected during the outage remain valid, while their digital versions are being systematically uploaded into the system. The ministry also noted that starting the following day, data sharing with other state agencies, including the State Tax Service, Pension Fund, and Ministry of Defense, would resume. Online services through the DIA platform, such as applications for military draft postponements for parents with 3 or more children under 18, would also be reinstated, ensuring a seamless data access for relevant agencies. So far, this marks the 4th registry from the hack to be restored. The previous ones include the Unified Registry for Powers of Attorney, the Inheritance Registry, and the Registry of Special Notary Templates. These efforts are part of the recovery plan implemented after the hack occurred on December 19th. The Security Service of Ukraine is actively investigating the incident, while Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Justice Olha Stefanishina assured citizens that robust measures had safeguarded the country's digital records from any permanent damage. The Russian defense company Vysokopotrechny Kompleksu has supplied a new batch of Depesha ground robotic systems to the military. The announcement was made through Rostec, a Russian state corporation. Details about the specific model and quantity of units delivered were not disclosed, but the systems have been previously deployed in their invasion of Ukraine, where they have been used as ground-based kamikaze drones. The Depesha system, developed by Signal Research Institute, was initially unveiled in 2024 during their defense forum. Built on a 4-wheel drive chassis, the platform is capable of various roles, including logistics support, casualty evacuation, and serving as an armed drone with a combat module. It can transport payloads of 200 kilograms, making it adaptable to a range of operational needs. At its debut, different configurations of the system were showcased. One featured an ambulance setup equipped with a stretcher for evacuating injured personnel, while another demonstrated a sapper complex outfitted with launchers for engineered munitions designed for remote mining operations. The platform's design includes independent suspension and an electric motor for each wheel, which enhances its mobility and off-road performance. The Unmanned Ground Vehicle, or UGV, can traverse uneven terrain at speeds of around 30 kilometers per hour. However, key specifications such as its operational range, maximum radius, and endurance have not been disclosed. Chimera, a Ukrainian company specializing in secure communication systems, has unveiled a new communication ecosystem designed for its G1 Pro tactical radios. The announcement was shared on all the company's social media and highlights technological advancements aimed at enhancing secure battlefield communication. The ecosystem introduces 3 key components: the B1 network extender, the E1 internet extender, and the R1 repeater, which can transmit radio communications via the internet. The devices were demonstrated and tested alongside the G1 Pro radios under electronic warfare conditions at the Ukrainian Armed Forces training grounds. During the testing, Chimera noted that the G1 Pro radios remained undetected and unaffected by EW equipment. The inclusion of a B1 extender attached to a drone improved communication performance even in the presence of EW interference. The radios also demonstrated seamless functionality while installed in armored vehicles, transmitting both voice and data. Imera's G1 Pro is a tactical radio system engineered for secure communications within Ukraine's defense forces. Equipped with advanced features, including pseudo-random frequency hopping and AES-256 encryption, the radios ensure secure transmissions that cannot be intercepted or decoded. They also support a network similar to MANET, allowing continuous data delivery even without direct connections between devices. All stations in the network maintain encrypted communication, mirroring the security of direct links. The radios are designed to transmit both voice and digital data. Their user-friendly interface supports integration with Android devices, allowing for simple configuration via Bluetooth without requiring specialized software knowledge. Up next, we have economy and aid. Ukraine has received 3 billion euros from the European Union, marking the first installment of a loan package supported by income generated from frozen Russian assets. Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal confirmed the development on January 10th, noting that the funds were delivered through the Extraordinary Revenue Acceleration Initiative, a program established by G7 nations to provide Ukraine with a $50 billion loan, of which the EU has committed approximately $20 billion. Shmyhal emphasized that the funding represents the implementation of the Russia will pay principle, aiming to reinforce Ukraine's financial stability for 2025. The funds come from the profits of Russian assets frozen by Western nations, which amount to roughly $300 billion globally. However, only the annual income generated from the assets, estimated at around $3.2 billion can be accessed for use. These revenues will underpin the $50 billion loan for Ukraine, while the bulk of the frozen assets remain untouchable, primarily within European countries. Canadian Minister of National Defence Bill Blair announced a military aid package worth $440 million Canadian dollars for Ukraine during the 25th Ukraine Defence Contract Group meeting held in the Ramstein format. This meeting took place on December 9th at Germany's Ramstein Air Base and marked the first gathering since September. The aid package includes 200 million Canadian dollars allocated to the Czech initiative for the procurement of delivery of large caliber ammunition, which is still one of Ukraine's top priorities. This builds on the 53 million contributed earlier, which provided around 11,500 rounds of large caliber ammunition. An additional 50 million is earmarked for purchasing various calibers of ammunition from Canadian industries. Canada has also committed 100 million Canadian to the Danish model, a program aimed at supporting the production of military drones by Ukraine's defense industry. Furthermore, 30 million Canadian dollars has been designated for winter gear, including sleeping bags, winter boots, and thermal layers, part of which was delivered to Ukraine in December of 2024. Another 64 million has been allocated for high-resolution drone cameras, which were delivered in November and December. The announcement is part of a 500 million in additional military assistance that was pledged at 2024 at the NATO summit, and a $1.6 billion budget outlined in Canada's 2024 budget. The total value of Canadian military aid to Ukraine since the onset of the full-scale invasion has reached 4.5 billion Canadian dollars. Blair also provided updates on previous commitments, noting that Canada had delivered approximately 1,300 CRB-7 rocket warheads in December of 2024, following the delivery of over 2,000 rocket motors in September. The first armored combat support vehicles arrived in the fall of 2024, with all associated training completed, and an additional 40 vehicles are scheduled for delivery between May and December of 2025. The Biden administration has announced the final $500 million military aid package to Ukraine. It was announced by outgoing U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin at the Ramstein summit and includes air defense missiles and equipment for F-16 fighter jets. The Biden administration has left nearly $4 billion in unspent aid for Ukraine from a package approved by Congress in April. The remaining amount will be transferred to the incoming administration of President-elect Donald Trump, where it will remain accessible under the Presidential Drawdown Authority. Deputy spokesperson for the U.S. Department of Defense, Sabrina Singh, addressed the matter during a briefing, stating that the unused funds will be available for the next administration to allocate toward Ukraine. The announcement followed inquiries from journalists regarding the total aid left for Ukraine after the recent military assistance package was announced earlier in the week. Japan has introduced a new wave of sanctions targeting individuals and organizations in response to Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine. The measures were reported by the Japan Times and involve a set of asset freezes and export restrictions aimed at limiting Russia's ability to circumvent existing sanctions. Under Japan's foreign exchange and foreign trade law, 33 organizations and 12 individuals, including one North Korean national, are now subject to asset freezes. Export bans were extended to 53 organizations across various nations, including Russia and China. And starting on January 23rd, Japan will prohibit the export of an additional 335 items to Russia, such as small motorcycles and components for specialized vehicles like cranes. These actions are said to be part of Japan's effort to address North Korea's support for Russia and to counteract attempts by Russia to evade sanctions through third-party countries. Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi emphasized during a press conference that the measures align with global initiatives to promote peace. The US and UK government have jointly introduced sanctions targeting Russian energy companies Gazprom Neft and PJSC Surgutneftgaz. According to a press release cited by European Pravda, the companies collectively produce over 1 million barrels of oil daily, generating an estimated $23 billion annually at current market rates. Their profits are viewed as a direct source of funding for Russia's military actions in Ukraine. The sanctions are part of the US and UK strategy to disrupt Russia's revenue streams from energy exports, which play a crucial role in sustaining Russia's war efforts. Foreign Secretary David Lammy emphasized that oil revenues are central to Russia's war economy and reaffirmed the UK's commitment to preventing these profits from endangering Ukrainian lives and global security. The U.S. Department of Treasury has imposed sanctions on Antal Rogan, a high-ranking official in Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban's administration, signaling a further decline in U.S.-Hungarian relations since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Rogan, who serves as minister in charge of the Cabinet Office, has been accused of orchestrating corruption schemes across multiple sectors of Hungary's economy. The outgoing ambassador to Hungary, David Pressman, described Rogan as the primary architect of Hungary's corruption system. The Hungarian foreign minister dismissed the sanctions as, quote, personal revenge by the outgoing administration. The timing of the sanctions coincides with growing international concerns over corruption and governance in Hungary, which Transparency International ranked as the European Union's most corrupt member state in its 2023 Corruption Perceptions Index. The EU has already withheld funding from Hungary due to rule of law violations, including issues related to public procurement and conflicts of interest. Russian President Vladimir Putin criticized government officials on Thursday for their inadequate response to what he described as one of the most severe environmental crises the country has faced in recent years. Speaking during his first cabinet meeting of the year, Putin emphasized that the efforts to address the situation were insufficient and demanded stronger action to mitigate the disaster. To accelerate the response, Putin ordered the establishment of a rapid response center focused on halting the leaks and improving cleanup efforts. Kurenkov informed the cabinet that a specialized oil removal system had been transported from St. Petersburg and was ready for deployment. Putin also praised volunteers for their work in cleaning oil from affected beaches and urged government officials to show the same level of commitment. He called on authorities to address technical, financial, and technological issues tied to the disaster and to create a comprehensive plan to mitigate environmental damage. All this to say, this looks like a large-scale coordinated media event put on by the Kremlin to help insulate Putin from the effects and mismanagement of the disaster. And finally, we have international relations. The Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine has extended the deadline for military personnel to voluntarily return to service after their first unauthorized absence, or AWOL, until March 1st. The extension is part of a draft law amending the legislation on military duty and service, specifically addressing the enrollment of citizens to the military registry and their medical examinations during basic training. The amendment was supported by 298 parliament members and modifies the, quote, transitional provision section concerning AWOL cases. Previously, military personnel who went AWOL for the first time were allowed to return to their units voluntarily without facing criminal charges, with a deadline initially set for January 1, 2025. The new decision shortens the period, requiring voluntary returns to March 1st to avoid legal consequences. The original law, adopted in November of 2024, aimed to provide a chance for those who deserted or left their posts to rejoin the military without penalties. The recent extension reflects a continued effort to address issues related to personnel retention and service obligations during the war. On January 9th, the Armenian government approved a draft law to initiate the process of joining the European Union, marking a significant shift in its foreign policy. The decision reflects Armenia's move toward closer ties with Western nations, a course that has been developing since 2023. Nearly a year earlier, the Speaker of Armenia's parliament proposed the idea of EU membership, which was later supported by Foreign Minister Ararat Mirzoyan, who confirmed that the country was exploring the submission of an EU membership application. Armenia's pursuit of EU membership is a sovereign decision, but has sparked reactions from Moscow, given its long-standing ties with Russia. Dmitry Peskov, spokesperson for Russian President Vladimir Putin, commented that while the decision is Armenia's right, it may not be compatible with its membership in the Eurasian Economic Union, which includes Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. Peskov highlighted the perceived benefits of Armenia's membership in that union. The draft law, once approved by the Armenian government, will be sent to parliament for further consideration. Foreign Minister Mirzoyan described recent relations between Armenia and the EU as dynamic and intensive and signaled a growing alignment with European policies. However, the Prime Minister emphasized that any decision to join the EU would require approval through a national referendum. Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko has declined to invite a mission from the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, or OSCE, to monitor the country's upcoming presidential election on January 26th. The decision announced by the OSCE on January 9th has drawn criticism for undermining international election standards. Lukashenko, who has ruled Belarus for 3 decades, is seeking a 7th term. The last presidential election in 2020, widely regarded as fraudulent, sparked mass protests and a violent government crackdown on dissent. The OSCE's Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights expressed disappointment over the lack of transparency, describing the move as a breach of Belarus's international commitments. An official with the OSCE criticized the decision, highlighting that it denies Belarusian citizens an independent assessment of their electoral process and demonstrates the regime's disregard for commitments and democratic norms. Despite being excluded from observing the elections, the OSCE stated that it continues to monitor developments in Belarus. And finally, the Finnish government announced plans to maintain the closure of its border with Russia and extend a controversial law allowing border guards to deny entry to asylum seekers under specific conditions. The Act on Temporary Measures to Combat Instrumentalized Migration, initially introduced in July of 2024, was enacted in response to a spike in asylum seekers arriving at Finland's eastern border with Russia in 2023. Helsinki accused Russia of orchestrating the influx, a claim Moscow has denied. The law permits border guards to turn away asylum seekers in situations deemed to threaten Finland's sovereignty or national security. The Interior Ministry noted that the measures have successfully curbed the influx of migrants, with Interior Minister Mari Rantanen emphasizing the need to remain vigilant against potential rapid changes in the security situation at the 1,300-kilometer border. While the government intends to extend the law, the duration of the extension remains undecided and will be assessed. The law allows for its application in specific border regions for up to 1 month at a time under circumstances that Finland considers a threat. In such cases, only select individuals, such as children or people with disabilities, are eligible to seek asylum. Border guards evaluate those cases, and decisions to deny entry cannot be appealed. The border closure, enacted in December 2023 following the arrival of approximately 1,000 undocumented immigrants, remains in place with no plans for reopening. And that's it for the news this week. We will now move to the next segment.
Yeah, and that would be me. Hello, guys. As always, I will now present this week's most important news from Germany regarding Ukraine in a very short segment. We start with a new contract the German government has signed for Ukraine. Ukraine will receive 180,000 additional rounds of ammunition for the Gepard and Cheetah Sparks we have delivered, and therefore secure their midterm needs. The deliveries are planned to start in 2026, so already next year. This was made public by Rheinmetall on Monday. To prevent the disruption of essential social services, the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development has co-financed the charging stations through the state-owned investment and development bank KfW. This was made public by UNICEF Ukraine on Tuesday, which has also delivered the eco-flows to social service centers in the Kharkiv and Sumy regions. On the same day, Rheinmetall CEO Armin Pappberger, has confirmed to the FAZ that the first Lynx IFV has been delivered to Ukraine at the end of 2024 as planned. the IFV will now be trialed in Ukraine before a serious order can be placed. Still, there are no details on how such an order would be financed, at least no concrete details. After all, a corresponding order with a reasonable number of infantry fighting vehicles would cost hundreds of millions of euros or potentially even billions of euros. So yeah, we have to see how this stuff turns out in the end. And yeah, I will definitely keep you guys updated. And last but not least, Minister of Defense Boris Pistorius announced on Tuesday at the UDCG meeting that Germany will deliver nearly 50 additional missiles for the delivered IRIS-T systems to Ukraine. They were originally intended for the German Bundeswehr, so for the German army, and are now being redirected from the industry directly to Ukraine. And yeah, that's it for my segment. So back to you, Joseph.
Hello, Mr. Daniele. Is there anything? I think we're getting close to. We're out of questions, I think. So, is there anything you wanted to present this week? You have a new article out on the website. Is that right?
Oh, but that good evening to everyone. That article is not only mine. I mean, in reality, it's mostly a collaborative work. I've done very much low on that, honestly.
Yeah,
Okay. I was going to plug
wanted
it on the way out the door, but now that he's here, go ahead, Erlend.
Yeah, I wanted to bring it up, but this article has been in the works since the collapse of the Assad regime was starting to happen. It actually, this article was begun, like the work for this article began a lot before, actually. And then when Assad regime collapsed completely and the Russian pullout was kind of a fact and still happening, by the way, then yeah, the fundamentals of this article was laid. So it's basically Russian losses in Syria, both personnel and equipment. And if you're interested in this, then it's very long and very detailed. Do you have anything more to say about that, Daniele?
Oh yeah, the part that I really loved about this article is the connection with Africa and the implication also on the war in Ukraine. But essentially, it's a broad view on the presence of Russian influence in the Mediterranean, in the southern, and if you think about that, also on southern Europe, which at the moment has been one of the areas less effective in their support in Ukraine. So I think this article alone offer a very interesting view of why the events that unfolded so quickly in Syria can have their own impact in Ukraine and also in Europe in terms of security.
As you can see, the article contains a lot of data collected from various sources. Yeah, it's if you're interested in this part of the global conflict, basically, that Russia has instigated through the last 10-15 years, then this is a piece of the puzzle. And it's a lot of sources, as you see. So yeah, very comprehensive article, and thanks to everyone that has contributed to this. It's I think this is kind of the stuff that we will expect also coming out more from the Tochnyi team in writing, but these things take a long time, so please be patient for new articles.
Are we? Because I know Daniele said he had a relatively small role in this, or he was being humble, I'm sure. But my point is, someone else worked on this. Can we say who or no?
It's a Tochnyi team collaborative article.
Okay, so just a bunch of people worked on it.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else on the website that's kind of new in the last week or 2 weeks, Erlend, that we should cover for the good people?
Not really. This was the one before, and it's already more than a month old. So
it's a good looking website, guys. I highly recommend you head on over to tochnyi.info and check it out. Okay, so I guess we'll go ahead and close out the stream then. So thank you everyone for tuning in this week. I think it was a good panel. Thanks so much, of course, to our guest Gesh for coming in, talking a little bit about his work and how he goes about how he goes about doing it. Really detailed information we got from him there. Thanks to our usual panel, to my colleague Mr. Erlend, to Mr. German to Ukraine, to Mr. Daniele for stopping by and asking questions and talking to Mr. Gesh, and also for presenting all the information they do. And thanks, of course, to our live audience. We always appreciate you guys when you have questions and interact with us. We like that. We I don't know. We thrive a bit on your participation. So thanks for tuning in live with us and experiencing the stream as it happens, and we can interact with you. But of course, we know that not everyone can do that. Not everyone has time at 2100 Kyiv every Sunday, 2100 Kyiv, to tune into our stream. So if you do, you can always check out the video on demand. So thank you to the people who watched the video. Thanks for liking and subscribing and all that. Follow us on the social medias. We'll see everyone next time, next week. Slava Ukraini.
Heroям слава.
Erlend Slava.
On behalf of the brave.